Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm Brenda Winkle, energetic leadership guide, psychic medium, and somatic coach for ambitious leaders who know their gifts are real and who want to stand fully in them. Here, you'll learn how to trust your intuition, embody your vision, and step into the freedom you've been craving, all without chasing more certifications or carrying stuff that does not belong to you. Every week, I'll share powerful practices and conversations with thought leaders and changemakers that help you transform your vision into embodied confidence, claim your gifts without apology, and lead with both clarity and freedom. Because your gifts aren't cute, they're powerful, they're real, and they're needed. Start today by downloading my free energy audit at brendawinkle.com/audit. It's the exact tool I use to track what's fueling me and what's draining me. It will help you discern between that hit of achievement and true joy so that you can lead with more clarity and impact. This is your space to stop proving, start embodying, and live fully in your gifts. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I am very excited to be talking about what we're talking about on the podcast because it's something I have never publicly talked about. And I'm going to be using some terms that you have heard me talk about: energy management, energy protection, zipping up. We're going to be talking about clarity, why things might feel so disorienting right now. And we're going to be talking about something called energy harvesting, which is the piece that I have never brought to public before, but it's something we really need to talk about. So today's episode might name something that you have been feeling. You probably have noticed this happening in different places in your life, but you may not have had the language for it or anyone to say, yes, this is actually a thing. This is actually what you're tracking. And so if things have recently felt disorienting, foggy, emotionally loud, or strangely draining, this is for you. And here's what I want to assure you: nothing has gone wrong here. In fact, things are actually going right, but it feels disorienting because there was something wrong. And I want to be really clear in saying you haven't suddenly gotten bad at boundaries or suddenly been disconnecting with your intuition. You're responding to very real energetic conditions. This is the exact kind of thing that we slow down with. We slow way down. We work within the body. This is my work, whether we're working in the spiritual CEO membership, the retreat, or in private sessions. This is literally the work that we do. So there is something that I term energy harvesting. And we see this in more tangible structures all the time. For example, imagine yourself in grad school and you're producing a lot of research, a lot of content, and your professor is the one who's getting all of the recognition and praise and awards for your work. This is a form of energy harvesting. It is not ethical, but it's also not illegal. It is part of the system, right? It's a known part of the system that when you're a student at universities, that sometimes your ideas are going to end up in your professor's work, right? We know this. But what we don't talk about is that this is happening at a global scale when it comes to your energy and your ideas. And this can apply to your attention, your emotional labor, your ideas, your intuition, and even your nervous system regulation. It's when these things are being extracted from you without your consent, without reciprocity, and it's often under the guise of growth, service, leadership, spirituality, belonging, or even apprenticeship. Now, I want to say this is really important. It's not always malicious. It's not always like that there's somebody that's bad or evil or whatever. It's not that. Sometimes it's systemic, sometimes it's cultural, sometimes it's baked into the containers that never really pause to ask who is actually paying the bill for this thing. And I'm not talking about the actual bill, I'm talking about the metaphorical bill. Okay, so let me give you some examples. And I'm going to be very intentional to keep these very grounded, not dramatic, really tangible examples. So I'll give you one personal example from a mastermind container that I was a part of, where I was told and I believed that I needed practice on my leadership skills. And so I was, quote unquote, offered the opportunity to lead a small group. And in leading the small group, it became that I was sort of the liaison between the mastermind leader and my group. I became the person responsible for nervous system regulation, for touch points on action items that we were to have been doing inside the mastermind in order to grow our businesses, and ultimately ended up basically coaching people for free under the guise of leadership apprenticeship, as though I needed more leadership development. The irony here in this situation is I was the one that had the master's degree in educational leadership, and the leader of the container had a high school diploma. So, under the guise of leadership, my energy, wisdom, expertise, time, and energy were being extracted. I was told I was not enough. So, in order to be enough, in order to grow enough, in order to have the leadership skills, I needed this leadership experience. And this was a mentor that I trusted. And so I believed it. But if I would have been really grounded in myself, I would have seen that this is actually extractive. There was no reciprocity. I didn't benefit in any way from this experience. I wasn't being paid. I wasn't having any fee reduction for my payment in the mastermind. I wasn't given any perks or benefits. And I ultimately ended up deciding not to do that. But we see this in coaching spaces where we are seeing, perhaps this has happened to you, we're seeing the members that are paying to be in these containers be the ones that are leading the containers without compensation. That is extractive. That's energy harvesting. And that's one form of it that we can all probably see and recognize easily. It also happens in new business owners, like let's say photographers. This happened to me when I was a photographer, where people would say, I would like to have you do this event for free because I will give you the gift of exposure. Well, you know, unless you have a massive social media platform and you're going to post multiple times and you're going to put someone in front of a big event and give them credit for it, that exposure is not actually worth anything. Again, it's extractive. This is energy harvesting, harvesting your artistry, harvesting your energy. And I see it in the coaching world. I see it in the healing world. I see it in the podcasting world. In fact, oh my goodness, lately in the Be a Guest, Need a Guest groups on Facebook, it is very extractive. We see what is typically a free energy exchange. You give the gift of your knowledge, wisdom, experience, and time on a podcast. And I can't tell you the number of calls I've been on in the last month that someone invited me to do a podcast reach out call where we're connecting to see if it's aligned for me to guest on their podcast, only to find out that I need to pay to be a guest on their podcast. Well, I'm not going to give you my work for free and pay you to do it. No, thank you. Again, that's extractive. That is an example of energy harvesting. And I'm sure that you can think of examples of this in whatever field you or your loved ones or your friends are parts of. I see it across the board. If we look at Education. This is another example where there's an energy harvesting that happens with student teachers. Now, there is some reciprocity there, a little in some cases where there's actually a small remuneration fee. Like I'm talking very small, $200, maybe $300. Although I can tell you, I was never paid for having student teachers, and it's a tremendous amount of work. Supposedly, the benefit is that you have someone to help you, but when you're mentoring someone, it is really important for you to do the bulk of the planning and the holding of the container. And so, again, it is kind of like energy harvesting, but I'm getting off track a little bit. That's not what I wanted to talk about, but I was giving you examples. Another example is leadership environments where you are expected to stabilize everyone else, where there is some type of containment needed. And by containment, I mean there's something that's happened, there's been a relationship rupture. And even though it's not your fault, it's not your problem, it sort of ends up in your lap. That is energy harvesting. Absolutely. And then we see it also in political and media cycles that keep your nervous system activated. There's no even mention of repair. There's no attempt of repair. It's just like continually keeping you amped up. This is literally a form of energy harvesting that is happening right now in real time. And this also happens in spiritual spaces that prize openness but never teach protection. And there is so much extraction happening in the spiritual world right now in the spiritual coaching spaces. I call it the MAGA to spiritual pipeline. And if you follow Therapy Jeff, he's on all the social media platforms. I really enjoy his content. He calls it the spiritual to fascism pipeline. And this is a real thing. And I just want you to know, if you're listening to this podcast will not lead you to fascism. This podcast will not lead you to MAGA. If you support either of those two things, you should probably consider a different podcast, because the things that I'm going to tell you are not going to align with your ideals. Now, this is one thing that I want to really bring to us. In these spiritual spaces, and I'm talking coaches, healers, even Reiki practitioners, if that is indeed the spiritual to fascism pipeline or the MAGA to spiritual pipeline, however you want to say it, there is energy harvesting. And this is very, very impactful for you if you are an empath, if you are an intuitive, because you so freely give your energy. It's part of what makes you you. And so if you have ever felt like you're giving more than you're receiving and you can't quite figure out why you're so tired and why it feels so unfair and why it feels so triggering, this may be why. And this is one of the core reasons why I teach zipping up, not as avoidance, not as protection, but as sovereignty, to create that felt sense of sovereignty in your body so you know what's yours and what's not. So this feels particularly intense right now. As I'm recording, it's February 9th, 2026. We are approaching the Lunar New Year on February 17th. We moved from the year of the wood snake into the year of the fire horse. This will not be seen again for 60 more years. It will be 2086 when we see this configuration again, which is why it has felt so unfamiliar, so triggering, so difficult. It's because this is an energetic configuration that's very rare. We don't see it that often. Now, add to this, on February 20th, Saturn goes conjunct with Neptune in Aries. This has not happened before in recorded astrology, ever. And what we are planning to see, what the astrologers that I follow are telling us we're going to see, is we are going to see the physical manifestations of everything that we have been working toward. So it's going to make changes in our systems, in our structures, in our personal development. And this is a unique period in time when we are being asked to really reckon what's true for us. What do we align with? And we're seeing corruptions revealed. We're seeing hidden structures being exposed. And This is part of that astrology. There's a collective reckoning happening, and it's happening right now in February 2026. It is very real. I'm sure that you've felt it, even if you don't follow astrology, even if you say, well, I don't really know about astrology. I more follow, maybe you are religious and you feel like you're getting your things from church. You're probably still talking about this. You're still talking about these systems, even if that is the kind of conversation that you're having, because we have themes of power and control and truth servicing and delusionment or disillusionment, meaning all of the sort of illusions that we have been subject to are fading, and we're being faced with real truth, and it can be very confronting. It is very confronting. I mean, let's be clear. It is very confronting. And what we're also seeing in February 2026 is we're seeing who benefits from silence or confusion. This is not the light, the floaty intuition season that a lot of times Aquarius and Pisces, meaning the actual astrological signs of January into early February, late February into early March. Normally, we see this as sort of like a dreamy season, an emotional season, but not right now. It is discernment season. And your body is trying to calibrate while the ground beneath you is shifting. That's why it feels so disorienting. And disorientation is often the sign that your old strategy is no longer working. So if you have felt that lately, me too. I have been living through this in real time with you because I'm affected by the energy just like you are. And so, you know, as you look at every area of your life, and I like to think about it in terms of the 8 areas of life, there are different schools of thought. But when we think about the 8 areas of life, I teach this inside the spiritual CEO membership, and I talk about it with my private clients too. When we talk about the wheel of life, we want it to be as balanced as possible across every area of our lives, whether we're talking about finances or spirituality or friends or romantic partnerships or career, personal development, spiritual development, health. We want it to be as balanced as possible in order to feel like we're living fully. And right now, it's probably felt very challenging to achieve that balance because it just feels like the wheel is not round right now, right? Feels like the wheel is not round. And it makes me think of there's this episode of the Gilmore Girls where Luke is working on the sets of the school play and Lorelai is doing the costumes, and whoever's playing Luke, who happens to be Kirk, and if you haven't watched the show, it's so funny. It's such a good episode. Anyway, Kirk is trying to pretend like pulling this wagon is really difficult. He's playing Tevye in the musical Fiddler on the Roof, which, oh my gosh, fabulous show. So anyway, inside the Gilmore Girls, there's this show, Fiddler on the Roof, that they're producing. And Kirk, who's playing Tevye, is frustrated because the wagon that he's pulling is too easy and he's having to act too much that it's hard. So Luke goes over and he kicks the wheel of the cart, which makes it actually difficult to pull. And Kirk is so delighted. He's very happy because now he can not have to act so much, which, by the way, Kirk is like the jack of all trades, master of none kind of character. And he is like the mailman and the police officer and the Tevye in the third grade school play, all the things. Anyway, when he begins to pull this wobbly cart, that's what I'm talking about, where the wheel doesn't feel balanced right now. It feels like you're pulling a cart and there's something out of kilter, right? That is your body trying to recalibrate while that ground is shifting. And so this is where having skilled, contained support really matters. Not because you need to be told what to do, I don't believe that, but to actually help you hear you again. So let's start with how you can get back to feeling more of you. We want to create a sense of sovereignty, energetic, systemic sovereignty within you so that you can more accurately feel what's yours and what are you picking up from the collective, and also so that you can stop the energy extraction that's happening. And this is really, really important. And I also want to say before we get into zipping up, when you leave a system that has been extracting your energy from you, it will feel as though you have lost all the air in your sails. It feels like a loss. It feels like grief. It feels like you don't know what to do. You don't know how to calibrate. And I'm telling you this from lived experience. When I left that misaligned coaching container, I expected, because I could track the energy extraction that was happening. I mean, ideas that I would speak inside our call would be activated by this massive company within a month. And it happened again and again and again and again, so often that I finally was like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. And so when I left the container, what I thought I would feel was relief. I thought I would instantly get all of my energy back. I thought I would instantly like have all my creativity back. And that did happen, but it took more time and there was an integration process. And I just want to name that because if you have been having your energy extracted, when you disconnect from the system that has been extracting your energy, your system is going to feel tired. So, you know, this is a little bit gross. One of the reasons why people can get leeches so easily is that leeches have some kind of a solution that makes the point where they connect to your skin a little bit numb. You can't feel it. Otherwise, of course, it would hurt to have like a leech literally attach itself to your skin, right? The same thing is true with these energetic extraction systems. There's a little bit of numbing that happens so that you don't feel the connection or the pull of your own energy. Otherwise, we would all be aware of it, right? We'd be like, no, stop it. You don't get to do that. But there's a little bit of numbing that happens. It happens in, you know, sometimes it happens in belonging. Sometimes it happens in the collective, in the energy like that's all around us. And so there may be a period of hermiting, meaning being alone, that's necessary, and you may be a little bit more tired. This will be when it's even more important for you to resource yourself. Lots of liquid, making sure you're drinking enough, lots of rest, lots of good nutrition, and just know that the feeling will pass. I promise you, it will pass. There's, from my experience, almost like um almost like withdrawal. When you disconnect from that system that's extracting energy from you, there's a feeling that it's almost like withdrawal where you wonder, should I tap back in? Should I let them hook to my energy again? Maybe I want to hook into their energy. And so just naming that and normalizing that is really important. Extracting yourself from the system of extraction is not a bad thing. And you will probably go through some withdrawal. And also, do you want to keep giving your energy away in the way that you're doing that? I mean, you're probably giving away energy, time. It's probably costing you money. It's probably costing you ideas, which is also costing you money. And it's definitely costing you life force. So let's talk about what is zipping up. Zipping up is not shutting down, it is choosing when, where, and how your energy is available and to who. So what zipping up does is it restores like the external signal from the internal signal ratio so that you can hear your own thoughts, your own intuition. You can really feel what is your energetic system, what's your body, what's your emotions, what's your intuition saying, and how is that different from the information that's coming to you from a collective. And what you'll notice there is that it is so much easier to discern what's true for you and what's not true for you. And you can distinguish what's mine and what's mine wanting to be understood, or what's mine giving to the system of extraction. And it just makes it clear, which is the other thing that this does. Zipping up will actually protect that intuitive clarity. It interrupts the unconscious overgiving. It won't end it. There's a behavioral component that goes into this as well, which is why we talk about this a lot in my one on ones and the spiritual CEO membership at the retreat, because there is this behavioral component where if you don't change the behavior, you'll keep connecting to the same extractive systems. The other thing that zipping up will do is it returns you to choice. Now, every single empath that I have ever worked with, when I teach them this zip up method, the first thing they say is, "Oh, well, wait, I don't want to lose my empathy. That's what makes me who I am. I don't want to not be compassionate. I want to continue to be this way." And what I'm going to say is, try it. Just try it. Because what you'll find is that when you zip up your energy, the difference is you don't experience everybody's emotions inside your own body, but you are still completely aware of everybody's emotions and energy. You just have some sovereignty, some spaciousness in your own body. And what that does is it actually amplifies the amount that you can bring to their care because you have more capacity. You have more capacity for love. You have more capacity for giving generously of your time, your gifts. You'll have a clearer sense of what to do. Your intuition clears up. Your ideas come back. And this is something really incredible that you can do for yourself. So, what you're going to do is you're going to literally make a zipping motion from the base of your torso up over the top of your head, like you're zipping up a big parka, like you're wearing it backwards. And you're going to do that 3 times. You're just going to zip, zip, zip up and over the back of your head and zip up over the back of your head 3 times. I just did that. If you're watching on YouTube, you saw me hit my hand on my desk. And if you're listening on the podcast, you probably heard that. But the point is, I feel it now. And I'm in my office with Bentley, my dog. There's no one else here. And I still felt my system go, it just felt a little bit of ease. So when you're zipped up, your intuition gets clearer and easier to discern. You're able to track what your intuition is giving you. And you're also able to understand a little bit the systems around you. Now, I will say that you can do this on your own. And I hope you do. And when we're talking about the behavioral component that goes into this, it's very hard to learn to do alone. And the reason is because nervous system mirroring makes this feel so much safer. When you have a regulated nervous system that is appropriately zipped up and you're in contact with that nervous system, it makes it so much easier to feel safe to do that for yourself. You'll find yourself setting boundaries more easily. And here's the thing about boundaries, and we're going to talk more about boundaries another day, but most boundaries come down to that internal boundary first. If you don't have appropriate internal boundaries, it is very difficult to set and enforce boundaries that affect other people. Because if you're busting your own boundaries down before you even set them, it is a frustrating thing. So that's why being in a container is so much easier, because it's easier to integrate this sovereignness, the sovereignty, the energetic sovereignty in the right environment. So let me just tell you a little bit about something I noticed recently. I talked about the energy harvesting that I noticed in the coaching container, but I want to talk to you about another thing, another piece of this. It's another angle. The clarity that you seek does not come from thinking harder. It doesn't come from being understood by other people. It comes from this energetic sovereignty that I'm talking about with the zip up method. And you might find yourself, like I did, having to let go of the need to be understood. When I left that church position, there were some things that had happened to me that I could have, I felt that part of me wanted to share. sort of like a, but I don't think you understand feeling. That part was there. I could feel her. But I also could feel how resourced that part of me was. And the inner child part of me that used to want so badly to be understood would have stayed in that misaligned situation for a long time just so somebody could understand her perspective. But now that I have a connection with that part because of my own somatic work, because of my own nervous system work, I could connect with that part of me that really deeply wanted to be misunderstood or be understood, that feared being misunderstood. And I could offer the understanding that she needed. And I'm literally having conversations with this part inside me that wants to tell my side of the story in a really big way. And I can say, you don't need to be understood because I understand you. And what you did was the right thing at the right time. You took care of you, and that's what matters. And I'm saying this to myself right now. And even though I'm integrated in the experience, I'm grounded, I'm not emotional, I'm neutral about it, I can still feel it's like salve or solve. How do you say that? Salve? Solve? I don't know. Okay, we're gonna come back to center, but it is like that. It just feels so good. And that part of me wasn't even activated, and it still feels so good. We have to let go of the need to be understood in order to step into the biggest versions of ourselves. Now, that's two parts. That's an internal job, for sure. But we can't get to that internal job until there's nervous system safety, until you can connect with those child parts, those protector parts, the nervous system part of the body that's like, oh, hey, we're not safe. You can't connect with that. And no matter how many times you say, well, I'm going to try and let go of my need to be understood, if your body doesn't feel safe, it will not feel safe. And so we have to create that nervous system safety. And as we think about the first step in creating that nervous system safety, it comes back to zipping up your energy. Zipping up your energy is absolutely essential because we need that energetic sovereignty, because you cannot outthink energetic dynamics. And you can't willfully decide that you're not going to let the energy extraction, the energy harvesting happen. You have to protect your energy. You have to strengthen your energy. You have to create sovereignty for your energy. And then all of these other things will begin to resolve through embodiment once your energy has been protected and strengthened and sovereign using the zip up method. The embodiment piece, this is essential. You can have mindset all the live long day, but if your mindset is not aligned with what your body is believing to be true and what your body believes to be safe, it won't matter. And that's why the intuitive leader retreat exists. It's not to fix you, it's not to push decisions, it's not even really to create business strategy, although there may be some of that, but it's really to create enough safety for your system to reorganize so that you can pull back once and for all from all these extractive energy systems and create that sovereignty that you know you need to move into this next chapter, this next phase, this next iteration, right? So if that sounds good for you, invitation to go to brendawinkle.com/retreat 2026. We'll be together March 3 through 5 in Lincoln City, Oregon. It's a small group, an intimate size, nervous system first, meaning we're going to take care of the nervous system safety before we do anything else. Enrollment closes on February 26th, and we have some pre-integration retreat calls coming up. And when they're gone because they're live, there's not replays. And if a retreat isn't right for you right now, but you do think you want some support, I have opened limited single sessions. I haven't had those open for 4 years, but I'm opening them up right now because I think that with all of the changes energetically that are happening around us and all of the political changes that are happening inside of the United States and all the stress and anxiety that can cause, it felt like there was a need for some targeted support. So these single sessions are for recalibration, for clarity, for coming back into your own energy. It's just one conversation, in a session, and I'll put the Calendly link in the show notes. Both options exist to support different nervous systems at different moments. And if you don't have time or capacity to travel, the one-on-one sessions can be a great place of resourcing. And if you're looking for something ongoing that has a lower touch point, invitation to come check out the Spiritual CEO. We're hosted on School, and you can try us free for 1 week. There's a 7-day free trial that I just turned on. I didn't realize it was there until I was just kind of snooping around my own back end inside of School. And I was like, ooh, a free trial. So I'll put the link for the Spiritual CEO inside the show notes as well. And you can come check us out for a week. We're really diving deep into all of the ways that you can support yourself energetically through these changes over the next several weeks and months. So I have some reflection questions for you just to take into the next several days. Where have you been noticing that you need more energetic sovereignty or protection? Are there spaces that you're in where you need it? Are there people that you're around where you need it? Are there situations that you notice you need just a little bit more protection? And can you bring that zip up method to those places? And I didn't say this before. Well, I've said it on other podcast episodes, but not this one. We want to treat the zip up method the same way you treat brushing your teeth. So you're not going to do it once and then you're done. You're going to do it often, maybe twice, 3 times every day, because energy shifts and changes. And then the next reflection question that I invite you to take into the next several days: have you given yourself space to allow your clarity and your intuition to really land? And if not, can you set aside 15, 30 minutes, an hour, sometime in the next few days, literally the next like 3 to 4 days, to just be, to tune into your own intuitive knowing? Because if you're not creating that time, you're missing out on a lot of intuitive nuggets, a lot of intuitive nudges. And I want to really, really assure you, you're not imagining this. You're not imagining the chaos. You're not making it up. Trust what's happening. Trust that it's happening for us, not to us. It is accelerating our own evolution into the next version that we're supposed to be. And we're beginning a new cycle, like never before seen cycle, on February 20th. And I'm here for it. And you're not late. I want to assure you, you're not late. You haven't waited too long. There's still plenty of time for you to begin to take whatever action you know you need to take. And I will say, yes, nervous system safety matters. And also, and this is the third reflection question, are you mistaking self-care for self-sabotage? And here's what I mean. If you're telling yourself, oh, I've had a hard day, I'm just not going to do that thing that's been scaring me that I know I need to do in order to move the needle in my life, that's not self-care. That is self-sabotage. Whether that applies to you writing and publishing the article on Substack, or registering the business, or creating the social post, if you are giving yourself permission to not do the thing, that's not self-care. That is self-sabotage. Now, the thing I want you to really hear is you don't have to rush this, and you also don't have to do it alone. Thank you so much for being here on your Yes Filled Life. I want to hear from you. Send me an email. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'm there at Brenda Winkle. I love Instagram. I love Facebook. I'm not as great on the messages on TikTok, but send me an email. Send me a message. I want to hear from you. Are you benefiting from the recent topics of the podcast? Are you liking them? I want this podcast to be of service to you. So if we're going in a direction that is helpful, please tell me. If we're going in a direction that is not helpful, please tell me what would be helpful. Because at the end of the day, this podcast, it's for you. It's in service for you. Thank you so much for being here. You know, the podcast it's a free resource. But I need you to know it's not free. It's no cost. It's not free for me to produce. It's not free for me to host. It takes my time, my energy, and it costs me money to host it. It is not free. So if you could, in the spirit of reciprocity, please share this episode with somebody that you care about. Please give the podcast a rating and review. It would mean so, so much. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.